Welcome to Fortress of Faith with Tom Wallace, calling North America to repentance and revival.
Well, we're back once again at the corner of truth and courage. You're listening to Fortress of Faith. This is Tom Wallace. Well, we have some breaking news coming out of Israel. The Knesset, which is kind of like their parliament, their Congress, where the elected house of Israel, those who make their laws, voted, and they handed down a very interesting decision. We need to break into that and some other news that's going on with United States Arabs, with Arabs here in the United States. That is rather interesting. A big change is going on in our world. But the headlines in Israel is that the Knesset, the Israeli House of Law, has said, we are banning the United Nations Refugee Agency. That they have been aiding and abetting terrorists, and we've had enough of it, and we're no longer going to allow them access through Israel. Wow, this is a huge development. I want to kind of bring some light to what is going on there. Before we do, let me quickly remind you, we've only got a few days left to vote. If you've not gotten your early vote out, you need to get on with that. I want to highly encourage you and encourage your friends and family. If you've already voted, you may have family members who are kind of like on the border when it comes to voting. They're not always faithful to get out there and make a vote. I had a preacher friend said it this way: if you didn't vote, then you don't have complaining rights. If you don't like the way the country's going, and you bellyache over how bad the taxes are, or how bad the country is, and how bad Congress is, and all that kind of stuff. Well, if you didn't vote, you have no right to complain. You had an opportunity to say something and do something, but you didn't. Never heard anyone put it that way before, but you know what? He's right. I believe he's right in that. And I tell you, this election's been interesting. One side is extremely vague on what their policies are. They can't really defend their record. And so, and this is usually the case. When you do not have a good case to put forward, then what you're going to spend your time doing is making the other side look like they are the devil. They are the demons. And we certainly can't let them get in. And so that's pretty much been the Democratic platform under Biden and under Kamala. And if you have any way of looking at this objectively, which I try to do, even though I have my preferences, but I'm also looking at it in an objective manner. Objectively, you can't help but say one side is just simply blasting the other for being the demon and the devil, and saying, vote for us because you don't want them to get in. But they're not really giving you any solutions and saying they're going to change, really, the things that they've been doing in the past. Someone posted this, and I thought it was interesting. Always remember, the crowd chose Barabbas. Not because they loved him, but because they hated the truth. That should sink in. Let that kind of fester there with you. All right, quickly to what's going on in the election, too. When President Trump was in Michigan recently, he was speaking in Novi, had a big campaign up there in Novi, Michigan, just north of Dearborn, Michigan, where the largest portion of Arab Muslims reside. And interestingly enough, two things are happening in the Muslim communities in Michigan. We're having a lot of the Arabs who are now outwardly campaigning and endorsing President Trump. They showed up at his rally and to publicly give their support for President Trump because they see him as the candidate of peace. But they're not seeing it with Kamala. Then there's another twist to this. There's the other side of Muslims there that are saying, they're Democrats, but they're saying, we're not going to vote for Kamala. They've been out campaigning back, remember when the Democrats had their big national campaign? There were protests going on in the streets there in Chicago. This isn't far from Dearborn, Michigan. It's not a far drive. So many of the Muslims were out there and then all the protests at the campuses and stuff there against Biden and their support for Israel. And they have had an effect. They have dented the Democrats from fully supporting Israel and withholding weapons and withholding aid. So they have had an effect. But what's going on now is that many of the Muslims are so angry and so upset with Biden and Kamala for not yielding to their protest and giving in and turning away completely from Israel. They're so upset about it that they are determined to sink the Democrats in this election. And they are outwardly campaigning to get Muslims not to vote for Kamala. This is a bizarre election, folks. They are trying to teach the Democrats, you should have listened to us. We have been appealing to you and trying to get you to do our bidding, and you would not yield to us. So we're going to teach you a lesson. We want you to lose. We're going to let you lose this election. And they could. I mean, in the last election in 2020, Biden won by 138,000 votes in Michigan. 138,000. There were 150,000 Muslims who voted in the election, which all no doubtly would have voted for Biden then. And so they have come away from that 2020 election feeling that they've got the power, because had not the Democrats won Michigan, the election would have gone to Trump. And so they have walked away from that feeling, we have the power to choose. There's so many Muslims here, and we have the power in Michigan, the number of Muslims here, to choose the president of the United States of America. And, theoretically, that was true in the last election. And so they feel they're going to wield their power and teach the Democrat Party a lesson. So there's one side out there that's saying, we legitimately see Trump is the answer to bringing peace to the Middle East. We see what he's done with the Abraham Accords. We see how nations are ready to sign on to that. And he has fixed a lot of things over there. And we feel he's the guy who's going to bring peace and bring an end to this war. And the Democrats just don't get it. They don't understand what's going on, nor do they care, it seems. And so then the other side of the Muslims in Michigan are saying, we just want to teach the Democrats a lesson so that we can control them. Next time around, they'll not make this mistake again. We pulled the plug on them and allowed Trump to be the president. Interesting things going on in our nation. These are some of the takeaways that I'm taking away with what I'm watching and seeing in this election, especially in Michigan. All right. Another thing I want to share with you very quickly before we get into Israel, because this is big. We have an opportunity to expand our radio ministry on a very strong Christian network. They have a number of stations in very key cities in the United States, cities like Philadelphia, cities like Kansas City, Indianapolis, and many, many others that have also very large Muslim populations. They have other stations, but they're offering us an opportunity for us to get on their stations at an amazing, amazing price. But we still have to raise some money to get in the door. And it's $24,000. And like eating an elephant, you got to do it one bite at a time, right? So we're going to break this up into two areas. So we're asking our donors. We're trying to raise $12,000. We're almost halfway to that mark. Would you help us with a donation today to help us get that other $6,000 raised? The other thing is this. We're trying to raise the other $12,000. So one half in one-time donations in the next 2 weeks. The other is we need a team of people, just 10 more people who'll support us at $83.33 a month just for 12 months. 12 months only at $83.33, or any amount that you could give monthly would help us raise that other $12,000. And we just need 10 more people to commit to that. And so here's the number to call: 800-616-0082. Or you can go to our website, fortressoffaith.com, fortressoffaith.com. I'll try to give that number at the end of the broadcast. All right, quickly, to Israel. Israel voted here today to say, we no longer will allow UNRWA, the United Nations World Relief Agency, to operate in Israel. Why? There was a number of them that were involved in the October 7th attack on America. Not only that, they have been teaching jihadism in their schools. They conduct all the teaching of the schools. They have been complicit in aiding and abetting Hamas and supporting them with the money that comes from the international community, has been siphoned from UNRWA right into Hamas. And Israel is saying, listen, if we're really seriously going to put an end to the threat, we have to put a stop to the United Nations, because the United Nations are complicit in aiding and abetting our enemies that want our destruction. And we're going to put an end to it. And they have voted to say no more. No more will this happen. I say amen. I've been saying this for years, that UNRWA needs to be finished. We need to put a stop to it. Now, of course, all the international community who's been supporting the United Nations, have been supporting UNRWA, have been condemning Israel for this. That's been the first reaction, is condemnation of Israel for voting this way. But I believe that our countries need to take a deep, deep, deep look at the United Nations. They are a bully post against Israel at every turn. They have hammered and abused and worked against Israel, even though Israel has done a majority, not everything, I'll agree, not everything Israel has done has been what we would call completely legal internationally. But for the greatest part, almost 99% of what they do within the constraints of the law. They go over and beyond it in many ways. They're not always perfect. I understand that. But given the disadvantage that they're always treated with by the international community, and especially by the United Nations and by UNRWA, I have gone over UNRWA and how bad that organization is. The United Nations knows, they've got to know deep in their heart that UNRWA is a thorn in the flesh to Israel. And it's no surprise that Israel has taken a stand to say, no, we're not going to put up with it anymore. Now, how's this going to fall out for Israel? I have no idea. It's going to be interesting to see what will result in this. But it's a very interesting turn of what we're seeing going on in the Middle East. All right, well, remember, you heard that first here at Fortress of Faith. We try to keep you informed of things that are going on around the world, dealing with Islam and us as Christians and us as a nation. And I hope that's been a blessing to you. Would you help us to expand our message by donating? The number is 800-616-0082. Again, that's 800-616-0082. Join us again tomorrow at the corner of truth and courage. God bless you.